Your Excellency President Lula da Silva, President of the Republic of Brazil, Your Excellency President Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Your Excellency President Xi Jinping, Your Excellency Deputy President Paul Mashatile, Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Your Excellency Dilma Rousseff, President of the New Development Bank, Chair of the BRICS Business Council, Ms. Busi Mabuza, Chair of the BRICS Women's Business Alliance, Ms. Lebogang Zulu, Honorable Ministers and all guests here present, members of the diplomatic corps who are here with us. I'd like to welcome you all to South Africa and to the 15th BRICS Summit. This is the open session of our summit, so it's a pleasure and a joy to have all of you here. The BRICS partnership straddles 4 continents and 5 countries that are home to almost 3.5 billion people who live on this planet. Over the past decades, the bloc has been a major driver of global growth, of global trade and investment as well. BRICS stands for solidarity and for progress. BRICS stands for inclusivity and for a more equitable order. BRICS also stands for sustainable development. We are an inclusive formation of developing and emerging economies that are seeking to work together to benefit from our rich histories, our rich cultures, and systems to advance the prosperity of the peoples of our countries. We do so because we know that poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment are the biggest challenges facing humanity. We are therefore determined that the BRICS partnership, which has been growing in importance and influence over the years, must be harnessed to drive an inclusive global economic recovery. Advancing the African agenda for us is a strategic priority as South Africa during its chairship of BRICS. It is for this reason that we have chosen as the theme for this year's summit, BRICS and Africa, a partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainability, and inclusive multilateralism. We welcome the ongoing engagement of BRICS countries with Africa in the spirit of partnership and mutual respect. We are pleased that all BRICS members, Brazil is re-engaging with the African continent in a meaningful way. Russia has always had really good and meaningful relations with African countries. China has chosen to assist and support Africa with its aspirations for development. And all of us, in the ways that we are involved and engaged, we want to be engaged with Africa. India continues to increase its engagement and its trade with Africa. So as the BRICS family, all of us as members, we are deeply invested and deeply engaged with Africa. Our objectives are reciprocal trade and investment. We want the goods and products and services from Africa to compete on an equal footing on the global economy. The African Continental Free Trade Area, once fully operational, will unlock the benefits of the continental market and generate mutually beneficial opportunities for both African and BRICS countries. As nations of the world confront the effects of climate change, we must ensure that the transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient future is just, it must be fair, and it must be able to take into account the different circumstances that prevail in all countries. In line with this objective, BRICS nations need to advance the interests of the Global South and call for industrialized countries to honor their commitments to support climate actions by developing economic progress. The commitments of support that have been made that have not yet been lived up to need to be followed through. Peace and stability are preconditions for a better, more equitable world. We are deeply concerned about conflicts across the world that continue to cause a great deal of suffering and hardship to many people around the world. As South Africa, our position remains that diplomacy, dialogue, negotiation, and adherence to the principles of the United Nations Charter are necessary for the peaceful and just resolution of conflicts. We are concerned that global financial and payment systems are increasingly being used as instruments of geopolitical contestation. Global economic recovery relies on predictable global payment systems and the smooth operating of banking, supply chains, trade, tourism, as well as financial flows. We will continue discussions on practical measures to facilitate trade and investment flows through the increased use of local currencies. This is a matter we believe that further discussions need to take place, particularly amongst our finance ministers. The world is changing. New economic, political, social, and technological realities for greater cooperation between nations is essential. New realities call for a fundamental reform of the institutions of global governance so that they may be more representative and better able to respond to the challenges that confront humanity. While many believe that we should advance the interests of all people, we believe that, yes, as we advance them, the interests of the Global South, that we as BRICS want to be ready to advance are essential, and in this regard, we want to collaborate more, to cooperate more with all countries that aspire to create a more inclusive international order. We are confident that this 15th BRICS Summit will advance the cause of common prosperity and progress. We are confident that this 15th BRICS Summit will in the end enrich and inspire our work towards the achievement of a much more humane global community. This is what BRICS is all about. This is what BRICS is committed to achieving. It is a great honor for us as South Africa to have this opportunity to host this 15th BRICS Summit and to have in our presence the BRICS members as they are represented here. And with those words, I open this session and then call upon one of the young leaders of our country who is also going to have an opportunity to give the words of welcome, but also to give the hope that young people in the BRICS countries hope to communicate to all of us. I call upon Ms. Asanda Luwaqa to speak to us. She is the chairperson of the Board of Directors of the National Youth Development Agency that seeks to advance the interests of young people in South Africa. Ms. Ayanda.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Your Excellencies and the heads of states of the BRICS countries, ministers and deputy ministers present, members of the media, leaders of business, civil society and labor, young people. It gives me great pleasure to deliver a statement on behalf of young people to the BRICS Heads of State Summit. Young people make up a large proportion of the populations of each of our respective countries. Their voices and views are critical as we forge a post-pandemic society at the highest decision-making forums. I must recognize the efforts of the organizers in ensuring that young people are represented at this particular summit. Your Excellencies, from the 18th till the 20th of July, young people from BRICS countries converged in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal for the 9th BRICS Youth Summit and the first in person since the pandemic. The summit was convened under the theme, BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development, and Inclusive Multilateralism, to discuss the current state and future prospects for the development of youth cooperation in BRICS countries over a wide range of areas. As we have entered into the decade of action of the Sustainable Development Goals, we believe that BRICS countries in general, and young people in particular, should use their collective strengths to prioritize the development paradigm, using it as a guiding principle for our work as we continue intra-BRICS cooperation across areas such as trade, education, skills development and training, economic participation and transformation, health and well-being, and social cohesion. Your Excellencies, young people in their collective believe that youth are the present and the future, and our interactions as BRICS member states cannot and should not be limited to an annual summit, which is why at our 9th Youth Summit, we presented the draft framework for the establishment of a BRICS Youth Council, which will become the coordinating body for youth development between BRICS member countries and will join formations such as the BRICS Business Council, BRICS Women's Alliance, and the New Development Bank. More importantly, the Youth Council will be a historic achievement for young people across our BRICS member states. Since the summit, leaders of youth agencies have met on 3 occasions to consider the draft declaration and framework of the BRICS Youth Council, and we are pleased to inform this summit that we have reached consensus on the establishment of a Youth Council. This will allow us to ensure deeper and stronger collaboration amongst young people. We thus implore that this summit endorse our proposal for the establishment of the BRICS Youth Council in its final declaration, in ensuring that new pathways for positive change and innovation can be realized, and in doing so, will further ensure that no young person amongst the BRICS member states gets left behind. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayanda Luaka, for bringing the youth voice in the BRICS Summit. Your proposals indeed are very clear and comprehensive, and we will be responding to that. It now gives me pleasure to ask His Excellency President Luis Lula da Silva, President of the Federative Republic of Brazil, to take the floor.
Meu caro Presidente da República da África do Sul, Ramaphosa, meu caro Presidente Vladimir Putin, Presidente da Federação Russa, aqui representado pelo Ministro Lavrov, meu caro Narendra Modi, Primeiro-Ministro da República da Índia, meu caro Xi Jinping, Presidente da República Popular da China, minha querida companheira Dilma Rousseff, Presidenta do novo Banco de Desenvolvimento, Ministro de Estado do Brasil que me acompanha, Mauro Vieira, Relações Internacionais, Fernanda Haddad, Fazenda, Aniele Franco, Desigualdade Racial, Embaixador Celso Amorim, assessor especial, minha querida esposa Janja, senhoras e senhores membros do Conselho Empresarial dos BRICS, senhoras e senhores membros da Aliança Empresarial de Mulheres dos BRICS, Lebogang Zulu, representante da Aliança Empresarial de Mulheres dos BRICS, e a Zanda Luvaca, diretora da Agência Nacional de Desenvolvimento da Juventude. Amigas e amigos, é uma alegria retornar a Joanesburgo, cidade que foi palco importante das lutas contra o apartheid e que segue como inspiração para o combate a todas as formas de discriminação e desigualdade. Na última vez que participei desta cúpula, em 2010, tive a honra de recepcionar em Brasília os chefes de Estado e de governo da Rússia, Índia e China, além da África do Sul, que participou como convidada. Apenas um ano depois, confirmamos o ingresso da África do Sul na primeira expansão do nosso agrupamento. Sua inclusão fez com que passássemos a refletir melhor a nova configuração do poder mundial. Saímos fortalecidos. Hoje, representamos 41% da população e somos responsáveis
the new configuration of the world power. We left that meeting strengthened. Today we represent 41% of the world population, and we are responsible for 31% of the global GDP in terms of purchasing power parity. But we face a more complex scenario than when we met for the very first time. In few years, we went back from a benign multipolarity juncture to going back to an absolute mindset of Cold War and geopolitical competition. This is lack of the senses that generates great uncertainty and corrodes multilateralism. We know very well this path could take us. The world needs to understand the risks that are involved and which are unacceptable for humanity. The BRICS, we should say that all suffer the consequences of the war. The most vulnerable population in the developing countries are the ones that are hit
A guerra
more
da Ucrânia
in an
evidencia
unproportional way.
limitações do
The
Conselho de Segurança.
Ukraine war shows the limitations of the UN Security Council. Many other conflicts and crises do not have the same attention. And the BRICS is a forum to discuss the main issues that affect peace and world security. We cannot bypass the treat.
O principal conflito da
The main
atualidade que
conflict of
ocorre na
today that is
Ucrânia
happening in
e tem efeitos
Ukraine
globais.
that has
O
global
Brasil
effects.
tem uma
Brazil
posição histórica
has
de
an
defesa
historical
da
position in
soberania,
the
da
defense of the
integridade
sovereignty and
territorial
integrity of the
e de
territory
todos os
and of
propósitos e
all
princípios das
the
Nações
principles
Unidas.
that are followed by the UN.
Achamos
We
positivo
believe that it
que
is
número
positive
crescente de
that a
países,
growing number
entre eles
of
os
countries,
países
amongst
do
them the BRICS
também
countries, also
esteja engajado
are
em contato
engaged
direto com
in
Moscou
direct
ou com
contact
Kiev.
with Moscow and
Não
with Kiev.
subestimamos a
We do not
dificuldade para alcançar
underestimate
a
the
paz.
difficulties to reach peace.
Tampouco
And
podemos
either
ficar
we
indiferentes
can
às
be
mortes e à
indifferent to the
destruição que
deaths and the
aumentam a cada
destruction
dia.
that increase every
O
day.
Brasil não
Brazil
contempla fórmulas
does not
unilaterais para a
contemplate
paz.
unilateral formulas
Estamos
for
prontos
peace. We are
para nos
ready
juntar a esforço
to
que possa
join
efetivamente
efforts that we can
contribuir
effectively
para pronto
contribute
cessar-fogo
for
e uma paz
immediate
justa
ceasefire and a fair and everlasting
sofrem
peace.
com a consequência da
Everybody
guerra.
suffers with the consequences of the
populações mais
war.
vulneráveis nos
The most
países em
vulnerable
desenvolvimento
population
são
in the developing
atingidas
countries are the ones
desproporcionalmente.
that are reached
A
in
guerra
an
na
unproportional way. The Ukraine war
evidencia
shows
as limitações
the
do
limitations
Conselho
of
de
the
Segurança.
UN Security Council.
Muitos outros
Many
conflitos
other
e crises
conflicts and crises
não recebem a
do not
atenção
receive
devida,
the due
mesmo
attention,
usando vasto
even using,
sofrimento,
even
mesmo
causing
causando vasto sofrimento
vast
para as suas
suffering
populações.
for their peoples.
Haitianos,
Haitians,
iemenitas,
Yemenites,
sírios,
Syrians,
líbios,
Libyans,
sudaneses
and
e
Sudanese,
palestinos,
and
todos
Palestinians
merecem viver em
all
paz.
deserve to live
É
in peace.
inaceitável que os
It is
gastos militares
unacceptable that
globais
global
em
military
ano
spending
ultrapassam
in
2
1
trilhões
year
de
goes
dólares,
beyond $2
enquanto
trillion,
a FAO
while the
nos diz que
FAO
725
says to us
milhões de
that
pessoas
735
passam
million
fome
people
todos os dias.
are in hunger every
A
day in the
busca pela
world.
paz é
The
um
quest
dever
for
coletivo
peace
e
is
um
a collective
imperativo
obligation
para
and
o
an
desenvolvimento
imperative for a
justo e
fair
sustentável.
development and sustainable
BRICS
development. The
deve
BRICS
atuar como uma
should
força
act
pelo entendimento
as a force for
e pela
understanding
cooperação.
and for cooperation.
Nossa
Our
disposição
willingness
está expressa
is
na
expressed
contribuição
in the
da
contributions
China,
given
da
by
África do
China,
Sul
South
e do meu
Africa,
próprio
and from my
país
own
para os
country
esforços de
in
resolução
all
do
the
conflito
endeavors
da
to
Ucrânia.
conflict resolution in
lugares,
Ukraine. There are many
enquanto os
places
homens
while
fazem a guerra,
men go to
são as
war,
mulheres que
the
lutam
women
pela
are the ones that
conciliação.
fight for
A
conciliation.
valorização e o
The
fortalecimento
valuation
do
and the
papel
strengthening
das
of the
mulheres na
role of
resolução
women
dos
in the
conflitos
resolution
será
of
cada vez mais
conflicts
central
will be
para
more
o
and
mundo
more
em paz.
central for peace in the world.
Mais do que isso,
And more than
o
that,
empoderamento
the
das
women's
mulheres
empowerment
é
is a
pré-condição
precondition
para pleno
for
desenvolvimento
a
econômico
full
e social.
socio-economic development.
Parafraseando
And
Thomas
paraphrasing
Sankara,
Thomas
grande
Sankara,
líder
a great
pan-africano,
Pan-African leader,
não
which
podemos
says
almejar
we
uma
cannot
sociedade
hope for a
em que a
society
metade da
where half of the
população é
population
silenciada pelo
is
machismo
silenced by
e pela
male chauvinism
discriminação
and
na
by
participação
discrimination in
política
political
e no mundo
participation
do trabalho.
and in the world of labor.
Amigos,
Dear friends,
o esfacelamento da governança
the
global
weakening of the
também
global
está
governance
patente nas
is also
agendas do
clear
desenvolvimento,
in the
do
development agendas,
financiamento
in
e do
financing,
enfrentamento
and in
à
the
mudança.
confrontation with climate change.
Ao retornar à
When
presidência
I
do
came
Brasil,
back to the
me
presidency in
entristece
Brazil,
constatar
I was very
que a
sad to see
implementação
that
da
the
Agenda
implementation of the
2030
2030
está em risco
agenda
em
is
todo
under
o mundo.
risk in all the world.
Relatório recente
A
da
recent
ONU
report
indica
from the
forte
UN
retrocesso.
indicates that we're in a strong
Vemos o maior
backwardness.
aumento da
We see the
desigualdade entre os
greatest
países
increase
em
of
3
inequality between the countries in
30%
more
das metas
than the
estagnamos
last 3 decades.
ou andamos
In
para
30% of the goals, we
É muito
stagnated or
difícil
we're
combater
going
a mudança
backwards.
do clima,
It's very difficult to fight
enquanto
climate
tantos
change
países em
while many
desenvolvimento ainda lidam com a
developing
fome,
countries still
a
have to deal
pobreza
with
e
hunger,
outros tipos de
poverty,
violência.
and other kinds of violence.
princípio das
The principle
responsabilidades
of
comuns,
common
porém
and
diferenciadas,
shared
mantém
responsibility,
sua
but differentiated, is something that
Os
is
grandes
true till today.
pelas
The major
emissões de
responsible
carbono
for the carbon
causaram
emissions
a
that
crise
caused
climática foram
the
aqueles
climate
que
change
fizeram a
were those
revolução
countries
industrial
that made
e
their
alimentaram
industrial
o
revolution and
extrativismo
feeded
colonial predatório.
predatory colonial
Ele tem uma dívida
extractivism.
histórica com o
They have an
planeta Terra e
historical
com a
debt with the
humanidade.
planet Earth and with
Precisamos
humanity.
valorizar o
We need
Acordo
to
de
value the Paris
Paris e a
Agreement
Convenção do Clima,
and the Climate
em vez de
Convention
terceirizar
instead
as
of outsourcing
responsabilidades
climate
climáticas
responsibilities
para o
for the global south.
Brasil
Brazil is recovering its protagonism on the environmental agenda. The coordination with other developing countries that carry tropical forests to act as the climate change copes and biodiversity copes will be vital to give way to our interests. In the summit meeting, the Amazon rainforest that was held some days ago was a landmark for the necessary construction of a sustainable development model with more fairness. Our resources should not be exploited for the benefit of few, but valued and placed to service all, and above all, for the well-being of the local populations. And more than that, so that the promises that were already done by the rich countries should be fulfilled, climate financing and biodiversity should be truly new and additional in relationship to the traditional finances of development. We need an international financial system that, instead of feeding the inequalities, should help the medium and low-income countries to implement structural changes. This will only happen with an adequate representation of the Bretton Woods institutions and their climatic funds. Foreign indebtedness refrains sustainable development. It's inadmissible that the developing countries should be penalized with interest rates that are 8 times higher than the ones that are charged in the rich countries. It is necessary to increase liquidity, to enhance concessional financing, and last but not the least, the conditionalities. The trade multilateral system should be reactivated so it can come back and act as a tool for fair trade, predictable, equitable, and non-discriminatory. No one anymore remembers the development round of the WTO. The decarbonization of our economies should be followed by the job creation with dignity, industrialization and green infrastructure and public services for all. Through the new development bank, we can offer our own alternatives for adequate financing that will attend or meet the needs of the global South. I'm sure that under the leadership of my sister Dilma Rousseff, the bank will manage to face these challenges. The creation of a common valid unit for our trade transactions and investments for the BRICS countries will increase our payment options and reduce our vulnerabilities. Presidents, today, and guests, today the BRICS are fully consolidated as a brand and as a political asset of strategic value. The participation of dozens of heads of government and state tomorrow in the enhanced session will represent an historical landmark. The interest of many countries to join the BRICS is the recognition of its growing relevance.
Momentous moment when more than 20 other countries are seeking to be part of the BRICS family. And I know that as BRICS leaders, you are discussing this matter and giving close attention to it, and you will need to make your decisions known. Your commitment to contribute to achieving a peaceful world, something that is appreciated, and your other views that you expressed also most appreciated the empowerment of women as something that has a great deal of resonance with most of us here, as are your views on climate change and how the resources of various countries should be used for the benefit of all. So thank you very much for your remarks in that regard. It is now my pleasure to ask President Vladimir Putin to have his moment to speak. He'll be participating through the virtual platform.
Большое спасибо. Уважаемый премьер-министр, уважаемый председатель, дорогие друзья, коллеги, прежде всего хотел бы поблагодарить наших южноафриканских друзей за все, что они сделали в ходе своего председательства в БРИКС в этом году. Выступившие коллеги уже дали положительную оценку деятельности БРИКС, и в целом мы эти оценки разделяем. Наша пятерка по праву утвердилась на глобальной арене в качестве авторитетной структуры, влияние которое в мировых делах последовательно укрепляется. Стратегический курс объединения, устремлен в будущее, отвечает чаяниям основной части международного сообщества, так называемого мирового большинства. Действуя слаженно на принципах равноправия, партнерской поддержки и учета интересов друг друга, мы занимаемся решением самых насущных вопросов глобальной и региональной повестки. Главное, все единодушно выступаем в пользу формирования многополярного миропорядка, по-настоящему справедливого и основанного на международном праве и соблюдении ключевых принципов Устава ООН, включая суверенное право и уважение права каждого народа на собственную модель развития. Чтобы это не было гегемония, пропагандируемой некоторыми странами своей исключительности и основанной на этом постулате политики продолжающегося колониализма, неоколониализма. Я хочу отметить, что именно стремление сохранить свою гегемонию в мире, стремление некоторых стран своей сохранить эту гегемонию, и привело к тяжелому кризису на Украине. Сначала с помощью западных стран был совершен антиконституционный государственный переворот в этой стране, а затем против тех людей, которые согласились с этим госпереворотом, была развязана война. Война жестокая, война на истребление в течение 8 лет. Россия приняла решение поддержать людей, которые борются за свою культуру, за свои традиции, за свой язык, за свое будущее. Наши действия на Украине продиктованы только одним – положить конец той войне, которая была развязана Западом и их сателлитами на Украине против людей, живущих на Донбассе. Мы благодарны нашим коллегам по БРИКС, которые принимают действенное участие в попытках прекратить эту ситуацию и добиться справедливого урегулирования мирными средствами. Уважаемые коллеги, главное, что все мы единодушно вступаем в пользу формирования многополярного миропорядка, по-настоящему справедливого и основанного на международном праве. Из года в год государства БРИКС наращивают свой потенциал. Как уже было сказано, доля пятерки, где проживает более 3 миллиардов человек, в глобальном ВВП уже превысила по паритету покупательной способности долю так называемой группы 7. За прошедшее десятилетие инвестиции государств БРИКС в глобальную экономику выросли вдвое, а совокупный экспорт достиг 20% от общемирового показателя. Успешно реализуется стратегия экономического партнерства государств объединения до 2025 года. В В частности, укрепляется пятистороннее сотрудничество по таким направлениям, как диверсификация цепочек поставок, дедоларизация и переход на национальные валюты во взаимных расчетах, цифровая экономика, поддержка малых и средних предприятий, справедливый трансфер технологий. И, естественно, инициативное участие в этих процессах принимают бизнес-круги. Большая работа проводится по линии делового совета и женского делового альянса БРИКС, о котором хозяин нашей сегодняшней встречи, президент Рамафоза, уже сказал. И руководители этих организаций присутствуют на данном заседании. Важным приоритетом взаимодействия БРИКС является создание новых устойчивых, безопасных транспортных магистралей. Выступая перед участниками делового форума БРИКС, я уже говорил об актуальности ускоренного развития трансконтинентальных маршрутов, таких как коридор Север-Юг, который соединит российские порты в Северных морях и Балтике с морскими терминалами и на побережье Персидского залива и Индийского океана. И в будущем сможет обеспечить ежегодный транзит до 30 миллионов тонн грузов. Считаем, что пришло время учредить в рамках БРИКС постоянно действующую комиссию по транспорту, которая занялась бы не только проектом Север-Юг, но и в более широком плане вопросами развития логистических и транспортных коридоров, межрегиональных и глобальных. В случае согласия партнеров российская сторона могла бы отработать эту идею в рамках председательства в БРИКС в 2024 году. И, конечно, мы приветствуем укрепление взаимодействия между государствами пятерки в глобальной инновации, в области глобальных инноваций, рассчитывая на активизацию сотрудничества в рамках инициативы глобальной сети исследовательских инфраструктур БРИКС, поддержкой и развитием которой мог бы заняться специальный целевой фонд. Со своей стороны, Россия готова делиться накопленным опытом и передовыми практиками, в том числе в области цифровой трансформации и искусственного интеллекта. Мы также настроены активно участвовать в реализации достигнутых договоренностей о создании совместной рабочей группы по ядерной медицине. Заинтересованы в скорейшем переводе в практическую плоскость деятельности Альянса БРИКС по сотрудничеству в среднем профессиональном образовании. И всецело поддерживаем предложение южноафриканских коллег об организации отдельной министерской встречи по делам женщин, чья роль в политической, экономической и социальной жизни наших государств должна, несомненно, расширяться. Уважаемые коллеги, в следующем году председательство в БРИКС перейдет к России. Наше председательство будет проходить под девизом укрепления многосторонности для справедливого глобального развития и безопасности. Мы планируем порядка 200 политических, экономических и общественных мероприятий, которые примут свыше десятка российских городов. При этом встречу БРИКС на высшем уровне мы намечаем провести в октябре 2024 года в городе Казани. Конкретные даты согласуем с коллегами по дипломатическим каналам. Также состоятся мероприятия в хорошо зарекомендовавшем себя в формате BRICS Plus Outreach. В ходе нашего председательства мы намерены сделать все, чтобы эффективно способствовать реализации решений, принятых на нынешнем саммите, в том числе касающихся расширения круга участников объединения. Будем осуществлять плотную координацию с партнерами по внешнеполитическому досье, сообща работать на ключевых международных площадках, прежде всего в ООН. Продолжать практику регулярных встреч высоких представителей по вопросам безопасности. Конечно, будем уделять первостепенное внимание таким остро стоящим задачам, как борьба с терроризмом и распространением террористической идеологии, а также противодействие отмыванию денег и возвращение активов, полученных преступным путем. Кстати, признательны партнерам за оказанную поддержку в группе разработки финансовых мер борьбы с отмыванием денег. Рассчитываем, что такой солидарный настрой сохранится и в будущем. Будем способствовать дальнейшей комплексной реализации стратегии экономического партнерства БРИКС до 2025 года и выработке новых долгосрочных ориентиров сотрудничества. В их числе видится повышение роли наших государств в международной валютно-финансовой системе, развитие межбанковской кооперации, расширение использования национальных валют и углубление взаимодействия по линии налоговых, таможенных, антимонопольных органов. Безусловно, в числе российских приоритетов наращивание партнерства в сфере науки и инноваций, здравоохранения, образования, развития гуманитарных связей в целом. Культурное и цивилизационное многообразие является одной из несущих опор нового многополярного миропорядка. Подразумевает создание целостного, свободного пространства культурного обмена, искусства, творчества. Как представляется, назрел совместно с партнерами по БРИКС, кстати, и по партнерами ШОС, для нас важно и с партнерами по СНГ, другими странами, серьезный разговор о будущем культуры в мире, о сбережении и приумножении мирового культурного наследия. Кстати, площадкой для такого диалога мог бы стать 9-й международный культурный форум, который уже запланировано провести в городе Санкт-Петербурге в России с 16 по 18 ноября этого года. И, разумеется, Россия продолжит всемирно содействовать дальнейшему развитию контактов в области спорта и молодежных обменов. В частности, в июне 2024 года намечены игры БРИКС. Будем рады приветствовать команды из стран объединения и на проводимом в следующем году в Казани международном турнире «Игры будущего». Эти соревнования представляют собой уникальную комбинацию динамичных спортивных дисциплин с самыми популярными видеоиграми и технологическими устройствами. Хорошая возможность для контактов и дружеского общения представится в марте 2024 года в Сочи на Всемирном фестивале молодежи. В заключение хотел бы еще раз подчеркнуть, что Россия в ходе своего председательства будет самым конструктивным образом взаимодействовать с партнерами по пятерке в целях дальнейшего укрепления роли и авторитета БРИКС, который, безусловно, будет только расти. Благодарю вас за внимание.
Thank you, President Putin, for your input in this regard. You're absolutely right that BRICS has proven itself to be a credible entity that acts in solidarity, that seeks to promote a more equitable global system. And we thank you also for the recognition of the efforts that are being made by a number of BRICS countries to bring about a peaceful end to the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. We agree that in the end, this type of conflict is best brought about to an end by negotiation, which you have said you have always been ready for. The BRICS members will continue to be supportive of various efforts to bring this conflict to an end. The BRICS members will continue to be supportive of various efforts to bring this conflict to an end through dialogue, mediation, and negotiation. And thank you for your thoughts also about the support that needs to be given to small, medium enterprises. That is appreciated. And the women empowerment process that needs to be enhanced. That too, we truly appreciate. And you've made comments about the reform of international financial systems That too is a matter that the BRICS needs to be seized with. And the BRICS leaders in retreat yesterday did talk about this, and an announcement in this regard will be finalized. And the cultural advancement culminating in the BRICS Games is something that also has a great deal of resonance amongst the BRICS leaders. So thank you very much indeed. It now gives me pleasure to ask the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of the Republic of India, to take the podium. Prime Minister.
Excellency,
Excellency,
Rashtrapati Ramaphosa,
President Ramaphosa,
Excellency,
Excellency,
Rashtrapati Lula da Silva,
President Lula da Silva,
Excellency, Rashtrapati Putin,
Excellency, President Putin,
Excellency, Rashtrapati Xi,
Excellency, President Xi,
ladies and gentlemen,
ladies and gentlemen,
15वें ब्रिक्स समिट के भव्य आयोजन
my
और हमारे आतिथ्य सत्कार के लिए
congratulations and thanks
मैं प्रिय
once
मित्र
again
राष्ट्रपति रामाफोसा
to
को
my dear friend
एक बार फिर से
President Ramaphosa
बहुत-बहुत बधाई
for
देता
the
हूं।
wonderful arrangements made for the organization
जोहानिसबर्ग
of the
जैसे खूबसूरत
15th
शहर में
BRICS Summit and
एक
for
बार
his
फिर आना
hospitality. It is a
मेरे
great
और मेरे
pleasure
डेलीगेशन के लिए
for me.
अत्यंत खुशी का
grande
विषय है।
prazer para mim.
इस शहर का भारत के लोगों और भारत के इतिहास से पुराना गहरा संबंध है। यहां से कुछ दूर ही टॉल्स्टॉय फार्म है, जिसका निर्माण महात्मा गांधी ने
A short
110 वर्ष
distance
पहले
away from
किया।
here is Tolstoy Farm that
भारत,
Mahatma Gandhi
यूरेशिया
built
और अफ्रीका
110
के
years
महान
ago
विचारों को जोड़कर
by bringing together the great
महात्मा गांधी ने
philosophies of Eurasia
हमारी
and
एकता और
Africa.
आपसी
Mahatma
सौहार्द
Gandhi
की
laid a strong
मजबूत
foundation
नींव रखी थी।
for our unity and mutual
Excellencies,
harmony. Excellencies,
पिछले लगभग 2
the
दशकों
last 2 decades
ब्रिक्स ने
have been
एक बहुत ही
a
लंबी
long and
और शानदार
magnificent
यात्रा
journey for BRICS.
तय की है। इस यात्रा में
We
हमने
have had
अनेक
many
उपलब्धियां हासिल की।
achievements during this journey.
हमारा न्यू
Our
डेवलपमेंट
new
बैंक
development bank
ग्लोबल साउथ के
is
देशों के
playing
विकास में
an important role
महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका
in
निभा
the
रहा है।
development of the countries of the global south.
कंटीजेंसी रिजर्व
Through
अरेंजमेंट्स के
its
माध्यम से
contingency reserve
हमने
arrangement,
फाइनेंशियल
we
सेफ्टी
have
नेट का
created a
निर्माण
financial safety net
ब्रिक्स सैटेलाइट
through initiatives such as the BRICS Satellite Constellation,
R&D
the
Center,
Vaccine R&D Center,
फार्मा उत्पादों को
mutual
पारंपरिक मान्यता
recognition of pharma
जैसी
products.
पहलों से हम
We are bringing
ब्रिक्स देशों
about
के आम नागरिकों के जीवन में
positive
सकारात्मक
changes
बदलाव
in
ला
the
रहे हैं।
lives of ordinary citizens in
Summit,
BRICS countries.
BRICS Games,
Through initiatives such as the
Think
Youth
Tank
Summit,
Council,
BRICS Games,
जैसे
the
initiatives
Think
से हम
Tanks Council,
सभी देशों के
we
बीच
are strengthening
people-to-people ties
people-to-people
मजबूत कर रहे हैं।
ties between all countries.
ब्रिक्स एजेंडा को नई दिशा देने के
In
लिए
order to give
भारत ने
the BRICS agenda new
Railway Research
direction,
Network,
India has given some
MSMEs के बीच
suggestions,
करीबी सहयोग,
such as the Railway Research
ऑनलाइन
Network,
ब्रिक्स डेटाबेस,
the
Startup
online
Forum जैसे
BRICS database,
सुझाव रखे।
close cooperation between MSMEs
मुझे
and a
खुशी है
startup forum.
इन
I am
विषयों पर
pleased that
उल्लेखनीय प्रगति हुई।
significant progress has been made in all these
Excellency,
areas. Excellencies,
हमारे करीबी सहयोग
in
को
order
और
to
व्यापक बनाने
further
के लिए
expand our
मैं
close
कुछ सुझाव
cooperation, I
आपके
would
सामने
like to place
रखना
before
चाहूंगा।
you a few suggestions.
पहला है
The first is
स्पेस के क्षेत्र में सहयोग।
cooperation in the area of space.
ब्रिक्स सैटेलाइट
We
कॉन्स्टेलेशन
have already
पर पहले
been
से काम कर
working
रहे हैं।
on a BRICS satellite
कदम आगे
constellation.
बढ़ाते हुए
Taking a step
हम BRICS
forward,
space
we
exploration
can think about
consortium बनाने
creating
पर
a BRICS space
विचार कर
exploration
सकते हैं।
consortium.
इसके अंतर्गत
Under this,
हम स्पेस रिसर्च,
we can work on
वेदर
areas
मॉनिटरिंग
such as space
जैसे
research
क्षेत्रों में
and weather
ग्लोबल गुड
monitoring
के लिए
for
काम कर
global
सकते
good.
हैं। मेरा दूसरा सुझाव
My
है
second suggestion
शिक्षा
is
skill
cooperation
development
in the areas
और
of
टेक्नोलॉजी में
education,
सहयोग
skill development, and
BRICS को
technology.
एक फ्यूचर
In
रेडी
order
ऑर्गेनाइजेशन
to
बनाने
make
के लिए
BRICS a
हमें
future-ready
अपनी society को
organization,
future
we
ready
must
बनाना
make
होगा।
our societies future-ready.
इसमें टेक्नोलॉजी की
Technology
अहम भूमिका रहेगी।
can play an important role
भारत में हमने
in this regard.
दूर सुदूर तथा ग्रामीण
In
क्षेत्रों के
order to
बच्चों
provide access
और उनके
to
तक शिक्षा पहुंचाने के
education
लिए
for children
Diksha
living in remote
and
and
digital
rural
infrastructure
areas
for
in
knowledge
India,
sharing platform
we have
बनाया
created
है।
the Diksha platform,
साथ ही
that is digital
स्कूल के
infrastructure
विद्यार्थियों के
for
बीच
knowledge
innovation को बढ़ावा
sharing.
देने के लिए
At the same time,
हमने देश
in
भर में
order to promote
10,000
innovation
अटल
among
tinkering
school
lab
children,
बनाए।
we have created 10,000
भाषा
Atal
संबंधी
tinkering
बाधाओं को
labs
हटाने के
across
लिए
the country
भारत
in
में
order to remove
AI
language
based
barriers,
language
and
platform
AI-based language
भाषिणी का
platform
इस्तेमाल किया
Bharshini
जा रहा है।
is being used.
वैक्सीनेशन के लिए
The
Co-win
CoWIN
platform
platform
बनाया गया।
has been made to manage
डिजिटल
vaccinations
पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर
through our digital public
यानी इंडिया
infrastructure,
के माध्यम
that
से
is the India
पब्लिक
stack.
सर्विस डिलीवरी को
Public service delivery
revolutionize
is
किया जा
being
रहा है।
revolutionized.
विविधता
Diversity
बहुत बड़ी ताकत
is one of India's
भारत
greatest
में किसी
strengths.
समस्या का हल
The solution
इस विविधता की
to
कसौटी
any
से
problem
निकलकर
found
आता
in
है।
India has withstood the
इसलिए
test of this
ये
diversity, and
विश्व
therefore
के किसी भी
these
कोने में
solutions
आसानी से
can
लागू हो
easily
सकते
be
हैं।
implemented
इस
in
संदर्भ
any
में
part of the world.
भारत में
In
विकसित
this regard,
इन सभी
we
प्लेटफॉर्म्स
will
को
be pleased to share
BRICS
with
partners के
BRICS
साथ
partners
साझा करने
all
में
these
हमें
platforms
खुशी होगी।
developed in India.
मेरा दूसरा सुझाव है
My third
एक
suggestion
दूसरे की
is
ताकतों की
that in
पहचान
order
करने के
to
लिए
identify each
हम
other's
मिलकर
strengths,
skill
we can carry out
mapping पर
together
कर सकते हैं।
a skills mapping
इसके माध्यम से
exercise.
हम
Through
विकास
this,
यात्रा में
we can
एक दूसरे
complement
के
each other in
पूरक बन
the
सकते
development journey.
मेरा चौथा
My
सुझाव है
fourth suggestion
बिग कैट्स के संबंध में।
relates to big cats.
ब्रिक्स के पांचों देशों
In
में
all 5 BRICS
बड़ी
countries,
संख्या में
various
विभिन्न
species
प्रजातियों के
of
बिग
big
कैट्स
cats
पाए जाते
can
हैं।
be found in large numbers.
इंटरनेशनल बिग
Under
कैट
the
अलायंस के अंतर्गत
International Big Cat
हम इनके
Alliance,
संरक्षण के लिए
we can make
साझा प्रयास
joint efforts
कर सकते हैं।
for their protection.
मेरा पांचवा सुझाव
My
है
fifth suggestion
ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन को
relates
लेकर
to traditional
हम
medicine.
सभी देशों में
All our countries
ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन का
have
इकोसिस्टम है।
traditional medicine
क्या हम
ecosystems.
मिलकर
Can we
ट्रेडिशनल
together
मेडिसिन की
create
रिपोजिटरी
a
बना
repository
सकते हैं?
of traditional medicine? Excellencies,
दक्षिण अफ्रीका की अध्यक्षता में
under South Africa's
ग्लोबल साउथ के
presidency,
देशों को ब्रिक्स में
countries of the global
एक
south
महत्व विषय
have been given
दिया गया है।
special importance
हम
in
इसका हृदय से
BRICS.
स्वागत करते
We heartily welcome this.
हैं। यह वर्तमान समय की
This
मात्रा
is not just
अपेक्षा ही नहीं
an expectation
बल्कि जरूरत
of
भी
the
है।
present times, but a
भारत ने
necessity as well.
अपनी G20
Under its
अध्यक्षता में
G20
इस
presidency,
विषय को
India has
सर्वोच्च
given
प्राथमिकता
this
दी है।
subject the highest
One
priority.
earth,
Based
one family,
on our
one future.
core value,
इस
one
मूल
earth,
मंत्र पर हम
one family,
सभी
one
देशों के साथ
future,
मिलकर
we are making
बढ़ने का
efforts to move
प्रयास
forward
कर रहे हैं।
together with all
इस
countries.
वर्ष जनवरी में आयोजित
In the Voice
Voice
of
of Global
Global
South
South
Summit
Summit organized in
125
January
देशों ने
earlier
भाग
this
लिया
year,
और अपनी चिंताओं
125
और
countries
प्राथमिकताओं को
participated
साझा किया।
and shared their
हमने
concerns
अफ्रीकन यूनियन
and
को
priorities.
G20 की
We
स्थायी
have
सदस्यता
also
देने का प्रस्ताव भी
proposed permanent
रखा।
membership for the African
मुझे
Union
विश्वास है
in the
कि
G20.
सभी ब्रिक्स पार्टनर्स
I am confident
G20 में भी
that all
साथ है।
BRIC partners
और सभी
are also
हमारे
together
प्रस्ताव का
in the G20
समर्थन करेंगे।
and that all
इन
will
सभी
support
प्रयासों
our
को ब्रिक्स में
proposal,
भी विशेष स्थान दिए जाने
giving
से
a special
ग्लोबल
place
साउथ के देशों
to
को
all these efforts
उनका
within
आत्मबल
BRICS
और
as well,
बढ़ेगा।
will further boost the
Excellency,
morale of countries of
भारत
the global south.
ब्रिक्स की
Excellencies,
सदस्यता में
India
विस्तार का
fully supports
पूरा समर्थन
the
करता है।
expansion of
और
BRICS
इसमें
membership.
कंसेंसस के
And
साथ
we
आगे बढ़ने
welcome
का
moving
स्वागत
forward
करता है।
on this based on
2016
consensus.
में
In
भारत की अध्यक्षता के
2016,
दौरान
during India's
हमने BRICS को
presidency, we
building
had defined
responsive,
BRICS as a group
inclusive
building responsive,
collective solutions से
inclusive,
परिभाषित किया
and
था।
collective solutions.
7 साल बाद
7 years
हम कह
later,
सकते हैं
we can
कि
say
BRICS will be
that BRICS will be
breaking
breaking
barriers,
barriers, revitalizing economies,
inspiring
inspiring innovation,
creating opportunities,
and shaping the future.
हम सभी BRICS
Together
partners के साथ
with
मिलकर
all BRICS
इस नई
partners,
परिभाषा को
we will
सार्थक
continue
करने में
to
सक्रिय
contribute
योगदान
actively
देते रहेंगे।
to make this
बहुत
new
बहुत धन्यवाद।
definition meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Modi, for your very insightful remarks. Would like to particularly thank you, South Africa, for reminding us of the journey that Mahatma Gandhi started here in South Africa and what he imparted to our forebears in South Africa in the modes of struggle. He was one who was strong on resistance. He taught us passive resistance, which he perfected, and we escalated to various acts of boycotts against the apartheid system. And through that, we were able to encourage citizen activism and organizations that were involved in our struggle, like the African National Congress and others, mobilized our people to fight against apartheid and finally to defeat it. So Mahatma Gandhi played a very important role in the history of South Africa. Thank you for reminding us. Would like to congratulate India, particularly as you speak about the need for cooperation in space. In a few hours, India's spacecraft Chandrayaan-3 will be landing on the moon. We congratulate you. This, for us as the BRICS family, is a momentous occasion, and we rejoice with you. We join you in the joy of this great achievement. But we also thank you for making the proposal that there should perhaps be a BRICS space cooperation system which can be looked at. It's a very forward-looking proposal. And your proposals on the development of skills is something that we appreciate and has great support amongst all of us. And thank you very much for also mentioning the issue about big cats. We were pleased as South Africa to donate cheetahs to India, and you informed me that the cheetahs arrived well and they are alive in India. And I told you that we are willing and prepared to donate even more because you are a country that takes care of big cats. So we thank you for that. So should you need more cheetahs, you've come to the home of cheetahs. On the issue of traditional medicines repository, we have a very big community of people who are involved in traditional medicine here in South Africa. So we're willing to cooperate, and I'm sure the same obtains with all other members of BRICS. And this you will find great support for amongst all of us to create a traditional medicines repository. So that would be good to heal all the ailments. We should not just continue being dependent on Western medicines. We should be also dependent on our own traditional medicines. We appreciate your focus on the Global South and also for having had this meeting of 125 countries participating. The Global South should now continue to be our area of focus, and we appreciate that. We want to wish you well as you continue to prepare to host the G20 summit, at which you have invited us, and we will surely participate. And we are heartened to hear that India supports the expansion of BRICS. This is a matter that we are discussing, and hopefully we will find a clear solution to this matter as we discuss it amongst ourselves as BRICS leaders. So we thank you very much. My honor now to call on His Excellency President Xi Jinping to take the floor and address us. President Xi Jinping.
Your Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, Your Excellency, President Lula da Silva, Your Excellency, President Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We gather at a time when the world is undergoing major shifts, division, and regrouping. It has entered a new period of turbulence and transformation. We, the BRICS countries, should always bear in mind our founding purpose of strengthening ourselves through unity, act on a strong sense of responsibility, enhance cooperation across the board, and promote high-quality development so as to bring to the world more certainty, stability, and a positive energy. We should deepen business and financial cooperation to boost economic growth. Development is an inalienable right of all countries. It is not a privilege reserved for a few. The world economic recovery remains shaky, with less than 3% of growth for the year, as estimated by some international institutions. Challenges for developing countries are even more formidable, hampering their efforts to realize the sustainable development goals. We BRICS countries should be fellow companions on the journey of development and revitalization, and oppose decoupling and supply chain disruption, as well as economic coercion. We should focus on practical cooperation, particularly in such fields as digital economy, green development, and supply chain, and bolster economic, trade, and financial exchanges. China will set up a China BRICS Science and Innovation Incubation Park for the new era to support the deployment of innovation results. Under the BRICS Remote Sensing Satellite Constellation Mechanism, we will explore the establishment of a BRICS Global Remote Sensing Satellite Data and Application Cooperation Platform to provide data support for agriculture, ecological conservation, and disaster reduction in various countries. China will also work with all parties to jointly establish a BRICS framework on industrial cooperation for sustainable development as a platform of industrial coordination and project cooperation in implementing the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We should expand political and security cooperation to uphold peace and tranquility. The Cold War mentality is still haunting our world.
地缘政治形势严峻，
and the geopolitical situation is getting
金砖国
tense.
家要坚持和平发展的
BRICS
大方向，
countries should keep to the direction of
巩固
peaceful
金砖国
development
家战略伙伴关
and
系，
consolidate the BRICS strategic
要用
partnership.
好金砖国家
We need to make
外
good
长
use
会晤、
of the BRICS foreign ministers
安
meeting,
全事务高级代表会议
the
等
meeting
机
of
制，
high representatives on national security
在
and
涉及
other
彼此核心
mechanisms.
利益的问题上
Support
相
each
互
other
支持，
on issues concerning our
就重
respective
大
core
国际和地区
interests
问题加强协调，
and enhance coordination on major international and
要
regional
积极
issues.
斡旋热点问题，
We need to tender good
推动
offices
政
on
治解
hotspot
决，
issues, pushing for
给
political
热点
settlement
问题
and lowering
降
the
温
temperature.
去火。人工智能是人类发展新领域，
Artificial intelligence
既
is
能
a
带
new
来巨
frontier
大发
of
展红
development.
利，也
It may
蕴含着
generate enormous
风险
development
挑战。
dividends, but also harbors
5国已
risks
经
and
同意
challenges.
尽快启动人
Our
工
five
智能
countries have
研
agreed
究组
to
工
launch
作，
the AI study group of BRICS
要充分
Institute
发
of
挥研究
Future
组作
Networks
用，
at an early date.
进一步拓展
We need to
人工
enable
智
the
能
study
合
group
作，
to play its
加
full
强信
role,
息交流
further
和
expand
技术合
cooperation on
作，
AI, and step up
共
information
同做好
exchange
风
and
险
technological
防范，
cooperation. We
推
need to
动建立
jointly
普
fend
遍
off
参与
risks
的
and
国际
develop
机制，
AI governance frameworks, and
形成
standards
具有
with
广泛
broad-based
共识
consensus.
的人工智能治理框架和标准规范，
So as to
不断提升人工
make
智能技
AI
术的
technologies
安全性、
more
可
secure,
靠性、可
reliable,
控性、公平
controllable,
性。
and equitable.
我们要加强人文交流，促
We
进
should
文明
increase
互鉴，
people-to-people exchanges and
文
promote
明多彩多
mutual
姿，
learning between civilizations.
发展道路多
There are
元
many
多样，
civilizations and development
这
paths
是
in
世
the
界
world,
应有的样子
and。this is how the world should be.
人类历史不会终结
Human
于一
history
种文
will not
明。
end with
一种
a
制度。
particular civilization or system.
金砖国家要弘扬海纳百川的精
BRICS
神，
countries need to champion the
倡
spirit
导
of
不同和平共
inclusiveness
处、文
and
明和平
advocate
共处，
peaceful coexistence and
和和
harmony
共生。
between civilizations.
要尊重各国自主选择的
We should
现代化
respect
道路，
all modernization
反
paths
对
that each
意识
country
形态对立、
chooses on its own,
制度对
and
抗、
oppose ideological rivalry,
文明冲突。
systemic confrontation, and clash of civilizations.
要用好金砖国家治国理政研讨
We
会、
need to make good use of such
人文
mechanisms
交流论
as the
坛、
BRICS Seminar on Governance,
女性创新
the
大
BRICS
赛等
Forum
机
on
制，
people-to-people and culture exchanges,
深化人文
and the
交流，
Women Innovation
增进
Contest, to
民
deepen
心相通。
people-to-people exchanges and strengthen the bond between our
中
peoples.
方提议，
China would like
金
to
砖国家
propose
拓展教
that
育领
BRICS
域合
countries
作，
expand cooperation
发
on
挥
education,
好职业教育联
enhance the
盟作
role
用，
of the BRICS Alliance for
探索
vocational
建立
education,
数字教育合作
explore
机
and
制，
set up a cooperation
打造
mechanism
全
on
方位
digital education,
教育合作格局，
and foster a paradigm of all-round cooperation
同
on
时加
education.
强传统文化交
In
流、
addition, we also need to
促
strengthen
进优秀
exchanges
传
on
统文
traditional
化
cultures,
传承和
and
创新。
promote the renewal of the fine traditional cultures.
我们要坚持公平正义，
We should
完
uphold
善全
fairness
球治
and
理，
justice and improve global governance.
加强全球治理是国际社会共享发展机遇，
Strengthening global
应
governance
对
is the
全
right
球性
choice
挑战的
if the international
正确
community
选
intends
择
to share development opportunities and tackle
国际
global
规则
challenges.
要依据联合国
The
宪章
international
宗旨的
rules
原则，
must be written and
由大
upheld
家共
jointly
同书写、
by all countries,
共同维护，
based on the purposes and principles
不能
of
谁
the
的胳膊
UN
粗
Charter,
嗓门大，
rather than
谁就说了算，
dictated by those with the strongest muscles,
更不能
the loudest
拉帮
voice.
结派，把自己
Ganging
的
up
家法
to
班
form
规
exclusive
包
groups
装成
and
国际
packaging
规
their
则。
own rules as international norms are even
金
more
砖国家要
unacceptable.
践行真正的多边主义，
BRICS countries should
坚持
practice
团
true
结
multilateralism,
反对分裂，维护以
stick
联
to
合国为核
solidarity
心的
and oppose
国际
division,
体系，
uphold
支
the
持并
UN
加强
centered
以世贸
international
组织为核
system,
心的多边
support
贸易
and
体制，
strengthen the WTO-centered
反
multilateral
对小
trading
圈子
system,
小集团，
and reject the attempt to create small circles
要充分
or
发挥
exclusive blocks.
新开发银行的作
We
用，
need to fully leverage the role
推动
of
国
the
际
new
金融货
development
币
bank,
体系改革
push forward reform
提
of
升
the
发展中
international
国家的代
financial
表性
and monetary
和发
systems,
言权。
and increase the representation and voice of developing
我高兴
countries.
地看到，
I am
发
glad to
展中
see
国家参与
the
金砖
growing
合作的
enthusiasm of
热
developing
情高涨，
countries about
很多发展中国家
about
申请加入
participating in BRICS
金砖
cooperation,
合作机制。
and quite a number of them have applied
我
to
们要
join the
用
BRICS
好
cooperation mechanism.
金砖加合作，
We need to make good use
加
of
速
the BRICS
扩
Plus
员进
cooperation
程，
format and
让
accelerate
更多
the
国家
BRICS
加
expansion
入
process
到
to
金
bring
砖
more
大家庭，
countries into the BRICS
集
family,
众志，
so as to
汇群力，
pool our strength, pool
推
our
动
wisdom
全球治理朝着
to
更
make
加
global
公正合理
governance
的
more
方向
just
发展。
and equitable.
各位同事，
Colleagues,
中国古人
as
说
an ancient Chinese saying：“ goes,
谋度于义者必
designs for
得，
justice prevail,
事因于民者
and acts
必
for the
成。”
benefit of the people succeed.
金砖事业秉持国
The
际道
cause
义，
of BRICS champions
造福
international
我国人
justice
民，
and benefits the
必
peoples
将
of our five
行稳
countries.
致远，
It will grow
为
steady and
促
strong
进世界和平和发展。
and make
做出
greater
更
contributions
大的
to
贡献。
world peace and development.
我说完了，谢谢大家。
Thank you.
Thank you, President Xi Jinping, for those insightful words. Yes, indeed, the world has entered a new period of turbulence, and you call upon BRICS to play an important role, notwithstanding this turbulence that the world is going through, and that the BRICS family should remain united, but more importantly should be ready to play a key role in helping to stabilize the world. And you mentioned a very important point about development, that it is not a privilege of a few. Development should be spread around so that all can benefit. And you mentioned a number of areas in which there should be development: in science, technological advancement, in innovation. And we thank you also for the offer to set up a BRICS remote data center that will help to advance the technological and innovative capability of BRICS countries, as well as developing a framework for implementing the SDGs. We thank you for that. And much as you say, the Cold War mentality continues to haunt the world, that the BRICS countries should stand on the side of peace. I think we support that, and we support the message you put forward that we should support each other on our core interests, the areas that each one of us in BRICS focus on. And artificial intelligence is a new frontier that we need to focus on, but we should also have governance of artificial intelligence, and it should be reliable and secure. And another important aspect is the people-to-people contact that we should underpin our unity in the BRICS around, and that there should be respect for the modernization paths that countries have opted for. So we thank you for that, and there should not be ideological competition. This is the calling card for BRICS countries. Empowerment of women, and also must promote traditional cultures. That too, we should say we appreciate. And yes, President Xi, you are in full support of the expansion of BRICS, as has been articulated by all BRICS members. that we stand at the cusp of expanding the BRICS family, because it is through this expansion that we will be able to have a much stronger BRICS in these turbulent times that we live in. So we await the decision that will be taken by the BRICS leaders in this regard in due course as we go on with our summit. We've now reached a stage where we now want to give the media an opportunity, as they often ask for, that once they've done quite a bit of work, they want to go and rest. So we want to give the media an opportunity to go and rest. I don't know what they do when they go to rest, whether they have a siesta, or whether they go and have tea, but we want to give them that opportunity. But they can be rest assured we will continue with our work because we are committed to doing so. We are mindful of their wishes and their interests, so we will pause for a while and give them an opportunity to leave us, to go and rest, and then we will continue with our meeting. So we pause just for a while to allow the media to go and do what they do best when they have an opportunity to be resting. So media people, thank you very much for being here. You may take your leave.